guys, welcome back and welcome to my barn where we do a lot of our filming. If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Tiffany and this is Teal Homestead, and I do a lot of rabbit related topics on my channel, but I also have chickens and goats and barn cats and dogs. In the future, I would love to add Muscovy ducks to our farm, as well as Kune or IPP pigs, and also some horses. I grew up with horses, so I know what I am getting myself into, which is why they haven't happened yet, because I know that they're a money pit, so it's just not in the cards at the moment, but eventually it will happen. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than some of my other videos because I realized that we have been living on this property for over a year and a half, and I've never properly taken you guys on a barn tour. And most of that reasoning behind that is because it's been like in a mess most of the time because moving is difficult. So for a little bit of background history, if you don't know the story behind my husband and I moving here and you haven't been following along for that long, let me back up and let me tell you how we ended up here. So this barn that you see used to belong to my mom and dad, and it was mostly my mom's because she raised horses when she was younger. So this land used to be occupied by my mom and dad. When they very first got married, they lived in a trailer up the hill close to where we built our tiny house. And also, if you didn't know, my husband and I live in a tiny house. It is around 250 square feet on the inside, and it is a shed to house conversion. So my mom and dad used to live on this property, and this property still belonged to partially to them and partially to my grandparents. My grandparents live up the hill this way, my mom and dad live up the hill that way. So Jameson and I were very blessed to be gifted part of this land, and in doing so, I inherited my mom's old barn because up the hill, like I said, that is where they built their permanent house, and then they built another barn. And so this old barn was sitting unoccupied for over 30 years and was kind of, my dad kind of used it to hoard a lot of things. So when we moved here, there was a lot to be done regarding getting a lot of things out of here and just really overall cleaning up the barn, which I knew was going to be a big task, and that's part of the reason why you guys have never been taking on a proper tour of it, because it was just a disaster area. But over the last year and a half, looking back, it has been such a transformation since moving here. I honestly can't believe how much we've accomplished in a year and a half. It's actually kind of crazy. So it's been a lot of fun actually, because moving back, my dad and I have got to spend a lot of time doing a lot of these projects together. And he has loved it. I think he's loved it. Sometimes I think that I've moved back and he's never been able to sit still in his retirement since, but it's been a lot of fun. But then also a lot of this I have done by myself as well, because I'm very DIY. The entire rabbitry I've done by myself. The goat stall that you are going to see as well, I've done by myself, and all of the organization that's in the very back section here, I've also done by myself. So one of my primary focuses on my farm is my rabbits. I raise Creme d'Argents, which are considered a rare breed according to the Livestock Conservancy. We use them for meat, show, breeding stock, and just overall we are trying to preserve quality in the breed overall. That's my main goal with the Creme d'Argents. So almost this whole half of the barn that I'm sitting in right now is focused on the rabbits. And then over here we have the chickens, as they so graciously announce themselves. And then in the middle section of the barn over on this side, we just recently built out a goat stall, so now the goats are coming in and out. And then on the very end of this side is all of my supplies and tools, and just I'm trying to stay as organized as possible. So with all of that history aside, I'm gonna go ahead and take you guys on a tour of my barn. If you have any questions for me, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Let's go on a tour, shall we? This is what the outside of my barn looks like. My dad built this over 30 years ago, and I inherited it just last year. We have this giant sliding door, and I like to have it open as long as the weather is not freezing. And if the weather is freezing, we close it just to keep a little bit more warmth in there. and keep everybody's bowls from freezing and all of that. So I do like to have it open for the most part. So when you come in the barn, one of the first things that you see is this right here. And this is kind of my evaluation station for the rabbits. I use it to evaluate my rabbits, to weigh them, and just to keep some certain items that I use like every day, like my watering cans and stuff like that. Those things all stay up there for the most part. There's a couple of cages underneath that are currently unoccupied, but that probably won't last long with how many grow outs I have right now, potentials for show and all of that. But yeah, so this is my evaluation area for the rabbits. There's my scale that I weigh them on, cleaning supplies. Oh, and yes, you guys have been asking me so much about pelts lately. I am going to be doing a video on pelts, but probably when it gets warmer out, because it is very cold in Indiana at the moment. It's going to get so cold this next week. So that's definitely going to be something that when it gets warmer out, I'm going to show you guys how I do them. This is my cabinet incubator from Hatching Time, and I use it when the weather is a bit nicer, but it is a very nice incubator. I actually really like it. So if that's something that you guys would be interested in seeing more of, let me know, because I'm sure I'll be hatching out some salmon Faverolles chicks in the spring. And up above here, you're gonna see all of these rabbit travel cages. These are the cages that I use to transport my rabbits to show and transport them anywhere really, but mostly for show. So yeah, I've just got a giant stack of them up there. So that is my organization area, and if you turn around this way, a couple other things you're gonna notice are my milking stand right here, and I built this milking stand completely out of scrap wood, and it actually works really well. And I'm sure you guys will be seeing more of this in the future because my does are going to be in milk in the next month or so, so that's very exciting. This is Deza. She is very sweet, and she doesn't care to say hi to you guys right now. The way this milking stand works, at least this right here, it's nothing fancy, but I can unclip this right here, and then this will open, goat head goes in there, and then we fill that little trough with feed. And then I'm able to do hoof trimming or, you know, whatever health related tasks while they are locked in place, so they can't get out of there. So it is definitely homemade, but it works very well, and I'm proud of it. Over here we have the chicken coop area, and as you can see, there's a little door right here. We can open that and let the chickens out, but I haven't been doing that a whole lot. As it's cold outside, we've got foxes and coyotes and stuff like that, and I just don't want my chickens to get eaten. I do like to live in as much harmony with the predators around here as possible. That definitely can get difficult, but the key is just locking them up. This is our chicken coop area. We haven't changed a whole lot about this area since moving. This is where my dad used to keep his chickens over 30 years ago when they lived down here. I found these branches in the woods and put them up for the chickens. They do roost on them. They're quite comfortable actually. They're very large branches. We have our nesting boxes over here, which are very messy at the moment. It's very hard to show you guys stuff in here just because it is dark in here. Darker. I mean, we have these strip LEDs, but they can only do so much for our chicken coop. So, but this is where we collect our eggs, and we have a little feeding manger for them that I made out of scrap wood, and I just fill up their water bowl here every day. The chicken coop is something that is going to be changed drastically in the next year or two, because I'm not a huge fan of having a plywood floor. That's one of the main reasons. But also, I'm not sure if I actually want my chickens in the barn. I breed large fowl salmon Faverolles chickens, and I would really like to be able to separate them out into their own breeding pens. I also breed Bantam millefleurs, so I would like to be able to separate them out as well, because I do have a couple of just random layers, as you can see. I will be definitely changing this around a lot, and that area might actually turn into more of like a feed room in the future. So switching from this side to this side, and then we're gonna focus on the rabbitry just for a little bit. So this is my rabbitry. I have Creme d'Argents, as well as a couple of Netherland Dwarfs, and I also have a random Florida White at the moment. But like I said before, I definitely focus more on the Creme d'Argents more than anything. I have a lot of open cages at the moment because we have a lot of juniors growing out at the moment, and I want to make sure that I have room to hold back prospective junior rabbits for nationals and convention this year. So these cages over here are what are called double modulars. This is also a double modular, and what it is it's two cages that are conjoined together. They have a partition in the middle that's made out of 1/2 inch by 1 inch wire, so they can either be two cages, or something that I did last year is I made them into one giant cage for mostly my rabbits that are nursing and have litters. What I like to do is I like to have my rabbits that have babies in these double modulars, because as the babies grow, they'll start hopping out, and the mom has a lot more room to run back and forth between those two cages, and the babies also get a lot more exercise that way as well. Down here I have Bobcat, and she has a nest box, but I currently have the partition closed, and then Finnick is in that cage, but soon Finnick's going to be moving to a show rabbit cage, and then Bobcat will have the whole run of those two cages. So that's kind of how I like to work with my rabbits. I like the moms with nest boxes to be able to have the entire 72 inches of cage space. So once the babies come out, she can run around a little bit more freely, and also the babies get a lot more exercise that way. These are my feed cans over here, and I keep my feed in these metal garbage cans just so rodents can't get to it, and also it keeps the feed a little bit fresher for longer. So you open these, you can see my rabbit feed in there. I feed a complete pellet along with usually unlimited hay, and we have a alfalfa blend, and we also have orchard grass that we bale right here on the property. And then my chicken feed over here, I mix my own chicken feed by using all flock and whatever is cheapest. And then I also add scratch grains, racehorse oats, and black oil sunflower seeds to the mix. And they seem to do really well on it. I've got a lot of roosters growing out, so I don't want to feed them just layer crumbles because I don't want my roosters to have issues. Then over here, this is the main area for the rabbitry. It's where I keep my triple stackers, and I have a video on how I created these triple stackers just in case you're interested. All of these cages were modular cages, so they were just all wire cages with no frame. So essentially I just built a stacker frame for them, and all of it is basically homemade aside from the all wire cages. So this is Chevra up here. And Trevor's going to take you on a tour of how we house our rabbits. So we have J feeders here, and I've explained a little bit about J feeders before, but you can just flip up the lid and add your feed in, and from there it goes into the rabbit cage and they're able to eat their feed. Their cages open very easily from the outside. You just push that wire down. And I do use water bowls for all of my rabbits. I actually hate water bottles, so we don't use bottles. They're a pain to keep clean, in my opinion, and they're also a pain in the winter, especially here in Indiana, because in the winter things can freeze quite quickly. So I just don't use water bottles. I would prefer just bowls, and yes, in the winter there's not really a great solution, especially when it gets 0 degrees out. We just have to bust ice out of bowls. Like, that's just something that has to be done. And it's a pain when you have this many rabbits. But if the water freezes solid, then you either have to switch out the bowl for another bowl and put water in that, or you just have to bust it out. For that purpose, I do have a lot of rubber bowls that I like to use in the winter. There is the hay feeder over here, and then Chevra is just chilling. Chevra only had 2 babies this go around. Zodiac had 10 and Bobcat had 11. Chevra had 2. I'm sure they will be giant hippos as long as everything goes well this winter and they make it. So very excited about all the babies growing out. We do use trays in the rabbitry, so all of the cages have trays underneath, and they have to be dumped once every I want to say between 3 to 4 weeks they have to be dumped. I actually just dumped them yesterday and refilled them with fresh pine pellets. This cage doesn't have a rabbit in it right now, so I'll show you. But these pine pellets are what we use in the trays, and they are highly absorbent. So when they get peed on, they expand and just kind of absorb that pee. And also they are good about blocking odors as well. So that's why I use the trays in here. Over here is where I keep my feed stacked. And I do keep it stacked up off the floor just in case, you know, just like my dog got a drink earlier and there's water on the concrete. I don't want my bags to get wet, so I do keep it stacked off the ground to protect it from moisture and to also protect it from rodents. Having it this far off the ground actually makes it so my cats can get underneath, because we have had mice get underneath the feed bags and open them from underneath. So I just made it high enough so my cats can get under there, and problem solved. We haven't had that issue again. This right here is my homemade ladder going up into the loft. The loft is where we have a lot of storage items because we do have a tiny house, like I said. So we have hay kind of on this side, and then over here we have a couple of storage items. You can see my plucker right there when we did our meat chickens. But yeah, the loft is kind of in a bit of a disarray. Not as bad as it was, but it is kind of a disarray. But yeah, the ladder going up to that. And then this is the newest part of our barn right here. So the goats are getting ready to kid this next month. So I needed to be able to bring them in to protect them from the elements. They have a shed out there, and they did love that for a while when it was warm out. But since it's winter now, it is getting ready to be like -8 one of these days next week. So that's fun, but also they're going to kid in the next month. So I need to be able to bring them in here and make sure that they're all safe and warm and all of that. So we have actually 3 doors going into this area. This one opens inward, and then they have a water trough right here, which is actually going to be moved before they kid for safety concerns, but also because it's blocking this hay feeder right here. So it's going to be moved, but right now, since it's going to be so cold and the water heater's right here, and I have an outlet right outside, so we have to plug our water heater in for right now. Hopefully next month it won't be as bad, but if it is, we're just going to have to run an extension cord. I put a little brick here because one of my goats is kind of short, so he's having a little bit of a difficult time getting to the water. And I don't want to fill it completely up right now because I don't know if I'm going to want to move it soon. So I put a little stepping stool for him right there. So my other 2 doors are right here, and those open outward into kind of my tool or an organization area. But yeah, this is where I'm keeping my goats now, and they're very happy about it. We'll be dividing this area into 2 stalls, but until then they have open access to all of it. So we have another hay feeder over here. These hay feeders were made with scrap wood, both of them, and scrap materials, so they work really well. I'm pleased with them. And something I do with my goats that is a little bit unconventional is I provide them a mineral bar. And it looks like a lot. It kind of is, but actually it's been really great for, I think, their overall health. I'm actually going to be redoing this thing so it takes up a little bit less space, because right now I'm using scrap 2x4s for it, but I want to use some thinner wood and make a couple of new ones. But for instance, we've got boron, calcium, vitamin C and B, and so on. There's 19 different minerals here, plus a salt block on the end. And we are going to change a couple of things, like I said, but yeah, this is what I have just decided to do for my goats. I know there's like a ton of different ways to do things for goats, but I have really loved this method. I think the goats have loved it too. And it's interesting to see what things they go for at different times of the year. So yeah, it's been really cool. This is just their little feed bowl. I put grain in it for them every day, and then they circle around and eat their grain. Dad and I recently cut out a hole here, and we built a new sliding door. So this actually slides shut, and we're able to protect the goats from weather a little bit better this way. And when we concrete the rest of the barn, it'll be up to here. That is where it's level. So yeah, we're gonna be concreting the rest of the barn eventually. Just haven't gotten that far yet with finances and time. And then lastly, we've got this room back here. This is my room of, believe it or not, this is organized to me, like for now. I mean, I'm sure that it'll get better, but this is organized compared to how it was. So I've got screws and nails and stuff like that right here. Some random things over in this corner. I've got all of my power tools lined up right here. This is all hammers and pliers and stuff like that. My levels are pinned up on this post here. I've got all of my animal med supplies up there, and that kind of continues this way with like cleaning supplies and stuff. I've got a lot of plant pots just because I had a lot of houseplants at one point. I don't have room for all of these houseplants in the tiny house, which is fine. But I love the pots and I don't want to get rid of them, so that's where they're going. I keep the hay over here to easily be able to fill the goat feeders and also to give the rabbits. You can actually see what a drop off there is from where we concreted up to here and then all the way down to here. It was all a dirt floor before we concreted. Not that there's anything wrong with a dirt floor, but we had a ton of flooding last year, so the concrete has made it so my animals are not in a mud pit. Last year it was pretty bad. This year it's actually been amazing, so I'm very happy with how that all went. We didn't get as much water on this side at all. It does sometimes come up from back here, which is why you'll see everything kind of elevated over here. Everything important anyway. So all of my feed and stuff like that, it's elevated. Eventually we're going to concrete this whole area as well, just so we don't have to worry about water. And it also really helped with our rodent problem as well. We don't see many mice anymore, and when we do, they're usually dead because I have barn cats. So that has been a nice change. And over here, this is my new most favorite thing. These are all of my goat minerals, all organized, so you can see everything is in its place, which makes my OCD heart happy. Some of them are empty. We've got more minerals ordered and on the way, but I love this. I think this looks so neat as well, like right next to the goats. It just makes me really happy. So all of their goat minerals are in there. We'll see how this transforms even more in the next year or so, but as of right now, it's the most organized that it's been since moving, so I'm very happy with it. This is my other kitten, Bento. Bento is very friendly, and we thought Bento was a boy when we adopted her from the animal shelter because her animal shelter name was Kyle, and then I never thought to check. So she was just hanging out down here. I took her to her spay and neuter appointment, and when I went to pick her up from her appointment, they gave her back to me and said she was spayed. She's a female. So all this time we thought Bento was a boy, but no, it's a girl. So now we have 3 girl cats on the farm. Deza is Bento's mom, and then we have Mirin, our long-haired white cat, and she's more of our house cat. So yeah, Bento is so sweet though. So happy. So there you guys have it. That is kind of my informal barn tour. I know the videography in this video probably isn't going to be as beautiful as most of my other videos, but to be totally honest with you, it is very cold outside, and we're getting ready to go into a week where it's going to be in the single and negative digits. It's cold out and it's harder to film like that. Also, my battery goes dead a lot faster when I'm filming in weather like this. So that is the reason why. But I promise you, I will try to get better shots going forward. So I am going to go ahead and go in and probably have coffee and edit this video, and hopefully you guys enjoyed watching and seeing all of the updates. It's definitely been really fulfilling to be able to do all of these things to the barn, and just knowing that we are going to be doing so much more to it. It's just always transforming. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and with that, I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.